agree with the thing about Matt Rhule. He hopes he can bring that to Lincoln. Again, he was introduced. Here's a comment from him, and then I want to get into a couple of the transfer portal stories involving two quarterbacks, among some other stories as well. This is Rhule earlier today about what is his, and he may have heard this when he was at Temple or at Baylor or at Carolina, his philosophy as a head coach of a football program.
You know, we talked a lot about just, hey, what's your philosophy, right? So if you found a player that played for me at any of the three places, they'll probably say, 5 or 6 things. Don't beat ourselves, win the line of scrimmage, which means run the ball and stop the run, protect and affect the passer. So there's core tenets that I believe in. How you get there. At Temple, we were a fullback in the I formation and, occasionally spread out. When I was at Baylor, I had 4 NFL wide receivers. We were spread out. But at the end of the day, the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen in high school football, college football, and in the NFL, they determine it. So in terms of getting there, I'm walking in a little bit blind in terms of, I've seen the games on TV. I've had a chance to watch. This process has gone on so long, so I've had a chance. But, I'll have to get into spring. I'll have to see where we are to know that. But for me, it's just a vision. A vision doesn't mean that's the picture that's here. The picture that's here, I have to get into that. But the vision is to build up front. And that's not just recruiting. That's also the weight room. That's also the way that we want to train. And I'm confident because, we've done that at Temple, I think right now there's 24 guys playing in the National Football League from Temple and Baylor combined, and none of those guys were 4- and 5-star recruits, but we were able to develop them, so that'll be our plan here as well.
All right, so that's Matt Rhule. Paul, thanks for peeling that out from earlier today. We'll have a little bit more in the 5 o'clock hour with him, and that at some point this week he will be a guest on this show. Luke Fickell will be introduced at 4, so we'll have more of that reaction from Wisconsin writers today, later on tomorrow.
Can I ask a question here? What do you think about Matt Rhule going to Nebraska?
Yeah.
Like, damn, man, like you've talked to him, him. He was here at Waco.
I'll say this now that it's official. I was, involved in at least asking him a lot of different questions the last 7 to 10 days. And to me, when I knew it was real, and I don't know if I've shared this or not, but I knew it was real, is when I was telling him about what he will experience there. Not that I ever did, but I know what that fan base has been through. I know how spoiled they were, and I know how loyal they are, despite the fact they have been 6 consecutive non-bowl winning bowl teams. They need someone who's going to go in there and get his hands dirty, mold clay or mud or whatever. Remember, when he came to Baylor, I used to have people all the time, why the hell is he talking about the process? They'd lose to Liberty, lose to UTSA, lose to Duke, lose to everybody but Kansas State. And then also developing NFL players. He never said he was going to have 5-star players who were going to go like Bijan to the NFL. What he said is learning how to be a professional football player. And if they talk to former players at Baylor, that's kind of what he's going to try to do. I'm excited. I'm excited. Luke Fickell would have been great, but I'm excited. Luke Fickell wasn't going to Nebraska. He's going to go to Lincoln. So I'm excited. Wisconsin. I don't know whether or not it will take him again that 2 or 3 year stretch. I saw a team play Friday against Iowa who I didn't even recognize for at least the first 3 quarters. And then, here we go, 24-0, 24-7. I'm excited. I hope it works out for him. And that's pretty impressive. All of a sudden, the guy that I know is now the head coach at the University of Nebraska.
Yeah, I think that they were smart to – I think this is the first coach they've had that by hiring Matt Rhule, you're saying this needs to be rebuilt. Hiring Mike Riley and Bo Pelini, that was maybe the paddles at the time, resuscitate him for a minute because he did bring a little bit of juice back into the program. It just couldn't work. But Bill Callahan, all that happened was not acknowledging where you actually were. When you hire Matt Rhule, as a college team, you're acknowledging we want a guy who's going to build from the ground up.
Which is what he's done, which he didn't do at Carolina, obviously, but he did it at Temple, which was a laughingstock in football, and he did it in at Baylor, which was overcoming what was about 2 or 3 years of hell, quite frankly, and he found a way to make it. Didn't work out early, and there were even times this second year where you wondered, but they turned the corner. They had the team that went to a bowl game at 11-3 and lost to Georgia in the Sugar Bowl in Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, I mean, they've been they've been a mess of a program.
Six
I mean, for the most part,
consecutive years where they've not been to a bowl game.
Yeah, nearly as many head coaches since they were last really nationally relevant in 2001 when Crouch and company got crushed by the greatest team of all time in 01 Miami. But since then it's been hit or miss. Mostly miss here lately. Some bad hires, some hires that maybe work out under different circumstances. But I like Matt Rhule a great deal. I think he is a really good football coach. I think he belongs at the college level. I was disappointed to see him leave Baylor, a few years back, but understood that people have to go live their dreams, and he wanted to be an NFL head coach. And, people can say all they want about he said this or whatever. Like, I wouldn't hold anybody back from living their dream. As far as that goes, I understand Baylor fans kind of, sour feelings about him leaving, but that's just the nature of the game. Like, that's college football, baby. Like, that's the way that it works. Unless you're, Michigan or Ohio State or, whoever, and even some of those schools, and even some of the schools we normally refer to, like in Oklahoma. I mean, you see them struggling. They're already questioning that's just how it works, man. It's always moving and going, and the fight to stay relevant is really hard. But I know that he had Baylor feeling like they were knocking on the door, and luckily Dave Aranda was able to, kick that door open for them not too long after that, and kind of, I think, ease some of those feelings a little bit. But when he was around, people, for the most part, loved him. I know he was beloved in Temple. I know that Nebraska fans are probably quickly falling in love with him as well. He's going to bring some energy. He's going to have a tough, hard-nosed football team, and he's going to do a lot of what he says, and if not all of what he says. So I think it's a great hire, and I think Nebraska fans should be happy. Now, at the same time, Luke Fickell, we kind of touched on it, but that's a big loss for Cincinnati entering the Big 12. That is a massive loss for them. I know that they've had a great history of kind of just finding, not necessarily finding, but just getting another coach in there who can make it work. They've had their ups and down moments as far as the head coaching, goes, but they've been able to just kind of always find their way back, eventually. And Luke Fickell, a really good coach, but going to the Big Ten just like Matt Rhule now, and they're going to get rid of divisions at some point, and this is all going to be the case around college football where everybody is just the best of the best going at it. And Nebraska, I think, made their big splash with Rhule. Wisconsin made a giant splash with Luke Fickell. Y'all in line behind Harbaugh. Ohio State's wondering about Ryan Day now all of a sudden, but it's still Ohio State. Penn State with James Franklin. Like, the Big Ten's really shaping up to be some heavy hitters, more so than they already are. And so I think Rhule and Fickell are tremendous additions to that conference, and I'm very curious about how they're going to kind of jockey for that second, I don't know if I'd call it the second tier, but kind of the B tier.
Yeah, you have your
behind
elite,
Ohio State and Michigan.
At the 8, 9, 7 wins.
But they've got to get to the B tier before they can get to the A tier. They can't just pass it. And I love the Luke Fickell hire to Wisconsin along with the Matt Rhule hire because, look, realignment's happening, right, in that conference. Lincoln Riley in a year brought USC back from the dead. So that team's coming in. They're not slowing down, being able to just rope in everybody in LA,
right,
in that area.
And one thing about Rhule that's interesting, guys, is that he never had really did not have so much the transfer portal. He had graduate transfers, and there was no NIL either.
Yeah.
And Nebraska, although they don't have the money like Ohio State or Alabama or A&M or Texas or whoever, they have a very healthy NIL situation going there.
It's not far off, though.
It really is for a place like that.
Yeah, and so, but look, like Wisconsin, I really thought they were going to go for Jim Leonard. I thought he was their coach of the future. I think they liked him, but I do think that they recognize that going into the new Big Ten, you need to put a stamp on what you're about to do, or you're going to be left behind for a while. Look, and I left out UCLA, just had the best season they've had in forever. Mm-hmm. How long?
Chip Kelly.
Yeah, Chip Kelly coming in. So you've got all this stuff going on in the Big Ten right now. If you're not ready to be a heavy hitter, then
you could be in
get out
mediocrity
of the way. Yeah.
like Nebraska's been for 6 years. One other note, by the way, I just went blank. Dang it, I just went blank on one of the questions about the coaching things we were talking about. But it's going to be fun. I mean, it is, to me, that's why when I brought up the start of the show, the games that matter lead to the coaching changes or other coaches getting opportunities. And it's been interesting. I want to say one note about the Michigan-Ohio State game.